Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about an interview that was done on France 24 English channel regarding Indian and Chinese ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I think it was 2 days ago, I watched an interview between one of the anchors in France 24, the English edition, and an oil expert. And, the little snippet that France 24 had aired was about how Chinese ships were being allowed through the Strait of Hormuz, and how, some ships were actually changing their flags and changing their ship details to indicate that they had Chinese ownership and they were being allowed through unhindered through the Strait of Hormuz.
As we've been hearing, the Strait of Hormuz has become a danger zone for world shipping since the war began on February the 28th. But there are ships from some countries still getting through. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Majdi Takht Ravanchi confirmed some countries have spoken directly with Iran. Their vessels have been granted passage. Monty Francis with this.
The images of burning oil tankers have struck fear in maritime crews from across the globe hoping to cross the Strait of Hormuz. With Iran's new supreme leader vowing to continue to throttle traffic in the strait, some ships have taken to declaring a link to Beijing, Iran's most important economic partner. In the past week, at least 30 vessels have abruptly claimed to have a Chinese owner or to be carrying a Chinese crew. Earlier in the week, a Panama flagged ship made it through the strait 2 days after changing its destination to China owner on its transponder. Beijing has not reacted to the maneuver, but has called for an end to the hostilities.
The Strait of Hormuz is a crucial international trade route. Maintaining security and stability in the region serves the common interests of the international community. China urges all parties involved to immediately cease military operations.
On Thursday, the oil tanker Shenlong, carrying Saudi crude, arrived at a port in Mumbai after crossing the Strait of Hormuz. It's the first vessel to reach India from the Middle East since the war began. On Thursday, Reuters reported that India had reached a deal with Tehran for its ships to pass through the strait. Iran denied such a deal existed, but India confirmed talks had taken place.
The External Affairs Minister and the Foreign Minister of Iran have had 3 conversations in the last few days. The last one discussed issues pertaining to safety of shipping.
But India has not been unscathed. The country's shipping ministry said that 3 Indian sailors had been killed and 4 others injured in maritime incidents involving foreign-flagged vessels since the Iran war began. India has given safe harbor to almost 200 Iranian sailors, allowing their ship to dock on India's southwestern coast shortly after the war broke out.
And then the discussion pivoted back to the control room, where this reporter or this news anchor then conducted an interview with an oil expert. And the reason I'm making this video is because I wanted to show the blatant hypocrisy that is out there. This anchor, if ever he's out of a job, he should apply to the BBC, because he would fit in there amazingly. The entire line of questioning. I'm gonna play this video for you, and you can have a listen to it, because he continuously tries to elicit a specific response from the person he is interviewing. And the person he is interviewing is very diplomatic in the way in which he is answering. Now, the man being interviewed is clearly somebody with some semblance of intelligence, and he doesn't want to be dragged into this. So his answers are generally either very vague or very broad. But the reporter continuously asks him, so Indian ships are going through. Is it the same? It can be seen as the same thing that India did when it bought oil from Russia, while helping Russia to fund its war chest against the Ukrainians. And it's a very leading question that he asked, and right off the bat, the person being interviewed said, "Listen, it's you can't compare the two conflicts, because here the Indian government has always, even despite sanctions, purchased oil from Iran. And the two countries that buy the most amount of oil from Iran are actually China and India. And, you can see that this person being interviewed tries to steer the conversation back to a more level ground, where he includes China and he says, look, China has also been buying oil, and you can't compare what was going on in Ukraine with what is going on in Iran, because the Indians have been long-standing oil customers of the Iranians. But then, the reporter, the news anchor goes on further to press, but it could leave a distasteful taste in people's mouths, knowing that the Indians are still buying Iranian oil, and it's not fair, and how would the people in Iran feel about this? And again, it's these are leading questions being asked. It is so blatant. It is so blatant, his one-sidedness. It's actually, it's embarrassing. I felt embarrassing because it was so cringe, the manner in which he was going. You don't expect a news anchor to be this blatant. You have an agenda, that's fine, but to come out and be this blatant is absolutely disgusting. And the interview continued until eventually he understood that there's going to be no joy, time's running out, and the interview was then ended. But this is the hypocrisy that you have with these news media outlets. And that is why it is so important to always watch all sides and listen to all sides of, in these conflicts, because somewhere in between lies the truth. If you just listen to France 24, you'll think that the Indian government are playing a duplicitous game, and they are buying Iranian oil just to help thwart any Israeli or American progress in the region. And that is far from the truth. But if you don't go out, if you don't listen to other podcasters, if you don't go out and look at what other news outlets are saying, go out and listen to what other experts are saying, you'll have a very narrow-minded view of what is happening, simply based on people's bias. And I'm going to play this, I'm going to attach this video, have a listen to it, because it is really, really, it's really intriguing, the manner in which this anchor goes on. And to think that it's even been allowed is even worse. This is the type of thing that the Indian regime faces day in, day out. The BBC do this every day, not only to the Indian government, the Israelis as well. So have a listen to this and make your own mind up, basically.
Monty Francis, with that, let's get more analysis. Giacomo Luciani joins us, professor at the Paris School of International Affairs. Giacomo, thanks for being with us. What is your take on this situation regarding some ships getting through the Strait of Hormuz, some countries doing deals or not? It seems to be a lot of smoke and mirrors at present.
Well, indeed, it's not clear what is happening exactly, and that means that it is difficult to draw any conclusions from the news. One needs to see whether it is just a few tankers that have been trapped in the Gulf that have been allowed to pass, or is this freedom of passage for all Indian tankers? Does it mean Indian flagged tankers? Does it mean tankers that have oil heading to India on board? All of these are important questions to which we don't have an answer yet.
And of course, the thing is, if Indian ships are getting through, if Chinese ships are getting through, it sends a clear message about which side of the war, of the argument that India and China are on.
Well, India and China are the major customers of oil from the Gulf. They account for roughly 50% of all the shipments of petroleum out of the Gulf. So clearly, they have a lot at stake and every interest to make sure that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened.
And of course, both China and India might argue that they had nothing to do with the starting of the war, and basically their economies are being, in a sense, undermined by the fact that this is going on. So they should have the right to access the oil that they need. Would that be their argument, do you think?
Well, their argument would be certainly in the case of China that they have supported the Iranian regime for a long time. They always claimed that they were not interested in regime change and have defended Iran against the pressure and the sanctions. They have not recognized the sanctions. So, I mean, Iran doesn't have many friends around, and China for sure is one. And India is a good customer. It has always been. So it's not seemingly in the best interest of Iran to pick up a quarrel with these two countries.
Indeed, and one wonders what those people under the bombs in Iran may be thinking when they hear about these kind of things going on. It's some of this expediency, as it seems, might seem very distasteful on so many levels.
Yes, there is a lot of uncertainty about the goals of Iran, just as much as the goals, the final objective of Donald Trump. Iran appeared to be aiming at creating havoc in international oil markets. So to push the price of oil, as they said, some said, up to $200 per barrel. If they want to do that, they have to hit China and India because they are the major customers. If they are not willing to pick up a fight with China and India, then it will be extremely difficult to cause a crisis for a long time. And the prices will come down if it is confirmed that China and India can receive oil freely.
Giacomo, can I ask you about the issue of planting explosives, mines as we call them, at sea in the Strait of Hormuz? It's reported that Iran might be considering doing this kind of thing. It would be very unlikely, really, wouldn't it, given that these Indian ships, these Chinese ships would be passing business for Iran. It would be really foolish of Iran to put explosive in the waterway, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be rather foolish. And in addition, it should be considered that the Strait of Hormuz is not exclusively Iranian. As a matter of fact, the corridors, the navigation corridors, lie entirely in Omani waters. So Iran would have to mine also the waters of Oman. And Oman has been a close, not an ally, but at least a mediator to allow Iran to negotiate. And so it's not likely that they would mine the waters of Oman.
Indeed, that said, Giacomo, of course, there's been the strike on the port in Oman, which has caused a great deal of consternation, shall we say. The president of Iran actually passing a phone call to the Sultan to apologise and say there'd been an inquiry held as to why that happened. But nonetheless, Iran has bombed Oman. So why not just mine the waterways as well?
Yes, well, there is a difference. At the moment, the president of Iran can claim that this was a mistake. It was done by someone who was not under control from the center. But it is more difficult to claim that if you are systematically mining the waters. So the danger of mining exists, but it seems unlikely also because Iran itself needs to have passage through Hormuz. So once they've launched mines, they may be affecting Iranian interests as well.
Giacomo, how would you describe India's role in all of this? Because we can talk about India's role in kind of fencing, that is to say, buying and then reselling under a different label Russia's oil, which has obviously helped, Russia's war effort in Ukraine. Now it seems doing the same thing to help Iran get through its necessary spending for its war effort too. How would you describe India's role? Some people might say it's really morally corrupt in some way.
Well, there is a major difference between Russia and Iran with respect to India. India was importing precious little Russian oil before the invasion of Ukraine. They stepped up their purchases very significantly and reduced purchases from the Gulf in order to profit from the lower price of Russian oil and export oil products everywhere in the world, including in Europe, towards Europe. Iran has always been a supplier of India. India never accepted the sanctions against Iran. So it is something that has not changed significantly over the years. So India cannot be really accused of profiting from the situation at the moment. Perhaps it has profited from the situation throughout by not adhering to the sanctions, but that's a problem of the countries that have created the sanctions.
Indeed, hear exactly what you're saying, Giacomo Luciani. Thank you so much indeed for giving us your analysis and sharing it with us here at France 24. Much appreciated. That's Giacomo Luciani, Professor at the Paris School of International Affairs.
I want to thank you for spending time with us. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Please remember to like, share and subscribe as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps our channel to grow.